All right, welcome back to another show. So, today I want to talk about food sabotage, binge eating, stress, and emotional coping with food, and how just sometimes we end up just sedating with it, right? And what we can do about it. Because ultimately, I know that you probably start off really good on Monday. You're feeling like redemptive from maybe a weekend of overindulgence, but it wasn't too bad. And you're really, really strict and trying, and you're putting all your eggs in your basket here. But no matter what, you find yourself just in this repeatable cycle. Maybe it's that snack eating at late at night or whatever it is. And it's the fact that we've got a lot of stress in our lives and it's not going to be perfect. And we have to just give ourselves permission to say, it's all right. And my only goal is to not screw up as much next time. But ultimately, you're not screwing up. You're learning, you're growing, you're developing, you're progressing, right? Because if you're making this thing perfect, then honestly, are you competing? Are you competing for something and it's part of your job? Because that's the only time you really need to be perfect, honestly. Like, there's no reason to compare your food to someone else's, your progress to someone else's, what you lift in the gym to what someone else lifts in the gym. None of it matters. None of it is going to be remembered. What you're going to remember is the feeling that you had by giving your very best and the feeling that you had when you didn't hold on to any guilt or shame when you stumbled, because it's part of the process. We don't like point and laugh when a baby stumbles when they're learning how to walk, right? And you're kind of learning how to eat a little bit healthier every single day. Every single day is a new learning lesson because everything that is happening is a new experience inside of our lives, right? It's maybe the same that it's been going to work every single day for the last 10 years. But their circumstances are going to be different, conversations that are going to be different. And so our stress levels are going to be different because everything has slightly changed. So you got to give yourself permission to screw up. It's okay. We just want to learn from them. But I think one of the most powerful things that you can do is understand a little bit more about your personality type. So often I think people just think that they have to be all one way. I've got to cut this out completely to be this way, right? Or, you know what, like I've got to have all this, otherwise I'm not doing this diet. And I totally get what you're saying and can completely relate. So like this was made popular, or at least first introduced to me from Gretchen Rubin, phenomenal author. And it's knowing your personality type from an abstainer personality or a moderator personality. And, the titles are pretty clear. But ultimately, an abstainer is someone that has more of an addictive personality, right? You need 100% to abstain from this thing because that's where you're going to sabotage is if you do get exposure to it. So that doesn't mean you can't ever have it again, but it may mean that it can't be in your environment. That's probably the hardest thing for most of us is that when we're trying to lose weight, when we're trying to, control our caloric intake, is that we've got to make it successful for us by controlling our environment to the best of our abilities, because willpower is going to tank by the end of the day. Got all this stress, got all the kids going on and work and just everything is piled up. So we need to make our environment easy so that we can get the win. And so what I want you to look at is like, if you're an abstainer, right, it means that you need to resist this food. It can't be in there because then once you have it, it's going down. This is me and most sugar, but definitely stuff like brownies and ice cream. Absolutely love brownies, love ice cream. If we make brownies, which my son loves to do as well, he's a little 3.5-year-old, we have to give most of them away because otherwise, like, I'll literally just sit there and eat the whole pan. And you're probably thinking like, dude, don't you have like a ton of experience in this? And can't you control yourself? Yeah, until I'm around brownies, man. So give me a break. Like, that's the thing. Or ice cream. We don't buy it. If it's in the house, it's going in my mouth. If it's going in my mouth, it's going down south. And that just means like my ass is getting huge. And no one really wants that, right? So it just can't be. We can go out on the weekends and I can grab a scoop, from Baskin Robbins or a local shop, and that's my ice cream. And I get my fix. But I will seriously, it's like this addiction just turns on and I will just kill off the carton. Now, does that mean I have to abstain from it for the rest of my life? No, I just can't have it in our house. It's got to be something that, I moderate to a degree. So it's on Saturdays. We're going to have it. I know I'm good. I get my little fix, but then, man, all those dopamine receptors in my head are going crazy because it just wants more. That's just the reality. Like, I need to be an abstainer from most things like sugar. Now, if it's out and I don't have it, I feel really good and I feel in control. And these other things don't trigger me. So for you, it may be something like ice cream. It may be something like alcohol. If you're the type of person that's like, yeah, I once I have one glass of wine, like the wine is flowing the rest of the evening. And then that usually leads to more food. And so you may need to be at a place where you're like, yeah, I abstain from wine. And it may start off that you're like, I'm abstaining these days per week. And I'm allowing myself these days per week. And then it's going to shrink. So I'm going to abstain from alcohol on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And then eventually it becomes Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday. And then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And then you're, slowly able to get to a place where you're like, cool, now I have 2 drinks a week. Everything is in alignment. And when I do have a splurge every once in a while, it's all good. Because now I'm no longer binging upon it or using it as a coping mechanism or stress eating on it, right? And now on the other spectrum, there's a moderator. Now, a moderator, right, much like my wife, just wants to have a little bit, not going to just keep eating and eating and eating. It can actually stop and actually feels good just having that taste, right? Just a little bit of dark chocolate to quench, just a bite of ice cream each night just to like satiate. So you may be that way where you're like, I just really like 3 ounces of wine every night. It's all good. I don't continue on. Someone like me, it's sugar-based, it will continue on. It's really, really hard to resist. I'm going to do better abstaining, having it out of the house. You may do better having it in the house, having it there, knowing that it's there. Because if you were to abstain from it, if you are a moderator, well, then what are you going to do, right? If you're like trying to force yourself to not have any, but you're a moderator and you just need that little bit to quench your thirst, to quench that craving, that sweet tooth, whatever you want to call it, and you try and abstain from it, well, then of course you're going to sabotage, because it's like, pulling something, it's like pulling a ball away from a dog, and then you're just like fixated on it because you can't have it. But if the ball is just always around, a dog is usually just going to kind of ignore it most of the time. Now, I'm not calling you a dog, but ultimately you don't need to have food in your mouth all the times like a dog. Like that's definitely the true reality, right? So you may find that you're a moderator with certain things and an abstainer with other things. And it's just really important to kind of acknowledge that and figure out what needs to be in the house, what does not need to be in the house. So what's going to serve me, what's not going to serve me and bother me, right? For something salty and crunchy, I can have a couple of chips that are my son's and they're in the house and it doesn't trigger me. Like I don't need to be an abstainer from those. But for you, salty, crunchy, it may be that thing. And it may just lead you down this like path, right? This addictive food sabotage path. So be aware of what these things are. Now, the second part of this, and I think it's extremely helpful, is knowing that for most of us, the things that we struggle with overeating the most are our comfort foods, right? When we stress eat, it's typically something that you ate growing up as a kid that reminded you of a time when you weren't stressed out, or it was given to you by a parent or, caretaker of some sort as kind of this positive aspect. Maybe family was fighting and there was all this stuff where your dad was, going off and being angry. And then it was like, kind of redemptive. Like, let's go have ice cream. Let's cool things down. Right. Let's, make this as a family treat. Stuff's kind of stressful. Like, let's have this as a treat. Right. Cool. Right. Or maybe it was, give you all those chips because it made you feel good. And it was a simpler time where you didn't have to deal with all of the grown-up stress you deal with now. And so often, like that's what it is. It's your comfort childhood food, or it reminds you of it to some degree because you weren't stressed out back then. And so we want to go back to that as human beings. So there's 2 things that I recommend doing, right? One is going to be for social situations. And then the second one is going to be for just when you're isolated and alone, right? When you're in social situations, it's hard, right? Everybody's drinking, everybody's eating the cheese plates, everybody's loading up. And if those are your trigger foods or those are things are going to take you just completely off track and you're trying to avoid, break out your phone. Like seriously, your phone is your best friend. And what I want you to do is write down these main 3 questions in the notes section of your phone. In a weird way, it's kind of nice, but in a weird way, it's not. But ultimately, people don't bat an eye when you pull out your phone in social situations anymore. That's what I'm saying. It's weird. Like it'd be nice if we lived in a world where we didn't have that issue anymore. But in reality, no one's going to bat an eye right now because it's such the norm. Hopefully someday it won't be. So in your notes, you've kind of got this brilliant mechanism. You pull out your phone and you're able to take a glance at it as if you're looking at a text message. No one's going to bat an eye. And all you're doing is giving yourself a chance to stop, recalibrate with these questions I'm going to have you ask yourself, evaluate, and then make a decision. So stop, recalibrate, evaluate, and then make a decision, right? So these 3 questions you would just write down in your notes and then pop this up whenever you need, and you're in that social situation where you're like, I'm about to sabotage. I know it, right? You know when this is going to happen. The first one is just, why am I eating? So just reading that on your phone, you're like, why am I eating? Why am I eating? Social pressure to fit in, right? You're just going to answer this question. And if it's like, I'm hungry, I didn't eat all day, well, then it's time to freaking eat, right? Like, this is good. This is what we want this to serve us for, right? This is what food is for, right? And then the second question, after you answer that one, because I'm feeling social pressure, right, is, what is this doing for me? And this is really asking, what is the emotion that it is fulfilling? What is this doing for me? It's filling my hunger. I haven't eaten all day. What is this doing for me? It's making me look like I fit in because everyone else is drinking and doing this. Ooh, then it's may not be what I want to actually do. Or maybe I want to change some of the format with how I do it, or I want to pace myself. What is this doing for me? Could be that you're coping with feeling like you need to be connected, that something is missing there emotionally for you. And so I challenge you to just ask yourself first, why am I eating right now? Cool. I'm eating because I want to fit in, because I'm feeling lonely, because I'm hungry, because, I'm dealing with some kind of emotion. What is this doing for me? It's fulfilling that dopamine hit so that I get something kind of instant right now to make myself feel better. Right. And then the last question is, how will I feel later? How will I feel later? Feeling exchange is extremely powerful, because how you feel usually right in the moment of something is completely opposite how you want to feel later, right? Like when it comes to working out, how do I feel right now? I don't feel like working out. I hardly ever feel like working out. You would think like someone who trains, 5-6 days a week, that wouldn't be the case, but it's just the reality. I have to, help talk myself into it every single time, right? How do I feel right now? Like eating a burger and fries. But feeling exchange, how will I feel later? I'm not going to feel that great if I continue down this path eating this today. Ooh, I'm going to feel good because, yeah, it's been a week and I'm really hungry, and, I've been doing a really good job, and I'm not going to let it hold emotional power over me, and I'm going to give myself permission to eat it. And then I'm going to be right back on track next meal. Boom. You just gave yourself permission. And so now it doesn't hold power over you, right? You just acknowledge what it was, using it for what it is, serving yourself in that best moment, and then moving forward. But if there's going to be any level of guilt or shame, now it's time to ask myself, could I let this shame or guilt go and still enjoy this food? And if no, right, then dial back the portions, recalibrate, and then move on from there. So then it's like, how do I want to feel later? Now I want to feel like I won this battle, like I'm in control. And you've been able to have this small little dialogue with yourself just from looking at your phone and asking these simple 3 questions. No one's batting an eye, and it's going to put you in a position of power. So you're not mindlessly eating and trying to fit in. You're giving yourself just a little bit of space to evaluate the situation of what's going on, to really check in with yourself. It's just being mindful more than anything else. It's just that this gives you a tool with how to do it, right? Now, the second thing is when you're isolated, when you're by yourself, you want to be able to ask these same questions, of course. It works extremely well, but it's a little bit harder because you're already feeling like, I'm alone right now. This food would kind of solve some of those issues that I'm experiencing emotionally, being disconnected, needing that connection, feeling alone, right? And so what I challenge you to do at this moment is understand that the food that you're using to deal with some of this stress stuff is typically what you experienced as childhood, right? When it was a time that you weren't stressed. There's probably a fun, free, simple technique, some kind of habit that you used to do, some kind of game, some kind of experience that you had as a kid that would elicit that same level of feeling. What is the stuff that you used to do as a kid? I used to play music. I used to absolutely love locking myself in my room with a keyboard, with a saxophone, you name it. I would just try and learn it, write new stuff. And it just unlocks all this creativity, and it's just so freeing and fun. So that's where it takes me back to when I was 9, 10, 11, 12. And it was the greatest joy, right? Kicking a soccer ball around was the other one. These are my 2 things that I absolutely loved to do. And so for you, it could be art. It could be, Could be video games. I don't know. But the nice thing is it takes you back to this level of nostalgia that the food is also trying to create, and it's also trying to fill that boredom. So if we can solve both of those issues all in one, when you're isolated and alone and find yourself stress eating or emotional eating, we're going to elicit the same feelings and the same hormones, can't talk guys, hormones, to really just make yourself feel better and course correct extremely fast. So if I find myself extremely stressed out and looking for sugar, just ready to just demolish stuff, right? And be like, ooh, well, I'm about to eat. All right, so what is this going to do for me? How do I want to feel later? All right, so I need to fill this. I need to course correct and do something different and break out the guitar. And, like just telling myself 30 seconds of guitar turns into like 20 minutes, or if my son is home instead of at grandma's house or with my wife, and it's not during a work time, it's like, it's easy to fill that time with some kind of game with him where it's like, yeah, it's taking me back too, right? Playing with cars, he loves to do that. So there's something for you. There's something for you that can take you back to when you're a kid that's still going to remind you of a time when you weren't stressed out. You weren't, using food as a coping mechanism. You were in the middle of play, in the middle of creation, in the middle of growth. And maybe it's just reaching out to a friend and having a conversation, like jumping on the phone and connecting. All right. So I challenge you to write those 3 questions down on your phone. Why am I eating? What is this going to do for me? And how will I feel later? And then also come up with what it was you used to do as a kid that you could do now to deal with that stress eating. And then really that last thing, which was actually the first thing, but to kind of look at where you need to be an abstainer and where you need to be a moderator and put those things into place. It means removing something out of your house, then definitely do it. If it means creating some kind of system so that you have just a small little bit every single day, then awesome, do it. It comes down to making it work for you so that you can make it all stick. So when we try and eliminate 100%, or we try and be something that we're not, or shape our habits to something that doesn't meet us or serve us in any capacity, it's where we sabotage, my friends. And we let the stress compile and build, and it's just one more thing. And then we say, oh man, screw this. I'm an adult. I should be able to eat what I want. And then we justify it, and it becomes a problem. And then we end up just guilty and sabotaged, and then we just discuss it with ourselves and we start that whole process over again. So let's not do that this time. So hopefully all those tips help immensely, and reach out as you need. Joseph at truthoftransformation.com. Also have a new 90-day weight loss program, which is, it's designed to do exactly that. Help you lose the weight every single week, week over week, build sustainable meals that meet you exactly where you're at, and just become the best version of yourself. Like, this is a permanent life transformation program. So I'll link that in the show notes. Would love to have you join up if it's something that would serve you, and running a amazing promo discount right now. It just kicked off. So as you're listening to this, go check that out, and I will see you on the other side. As always, Coach Joseph, peace be the journey. I'm out.